Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Xiao. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Today, I will embark on an in-depth exploration of the Chinese yuan's internationalization. I've been eager to address this topic as it's both sensitive and not easily comprehensible. I've been waiting an appropriate occasion, ideally with a practical example, to elucidate the concept of yuan internationalization. At last, the opportunity has presented itself. On Monday, July 31st, Reuters released an article under the headline, "Argentina won't use $1 of reserves to repay IMF," says Massa. Argentina's economy minister Sergio Massa said on Monday the country will not use a single dollar of its own reserves to make a $2.7 billion repayment to the International Monetary Fund due this week. Massa, who is also a presidential candidate in this October's election, said in a speech that it would be possible because of an extended swap deal with China and a new loan from the Development Bank of Latin America. Massa confirmed the repayment will be made with $1 billion bridge loan from CAF and $1.7 billion coming from the second tranche of a swap with China. During his televised speech on Monday, Massa revealed his intention to proceed with this course of action. His main target audience was the citizens of Argentina, and he sought to convey a momentous development to his prospective voters. This could have been a method for him to highlight his cleverness and ingenuity, essentially stating, "See, I can eliminate a $2.7 billion debt without using any of our own funds." The implications of this news are profound, spanning several dimensions of Argentina's political landscape. Notably, Massa's forthcoming October election play a role, shedding light on Argentina's political dynamics. Additionally, it delves into Argentina's ties with China, exploring the intricacies of yuan internationalization and uncovering significant vulnerabilities within the process. So, let's analyze this news piece and focus our analysis on the truth behind yuan internationalization. It serves as a highly representative and illustrative case. If you can read and thoroughly comprehend the underlying realities of this news, you will gain a general understanding of how China is currently advancing the internationalization of the yuan and the significant issues and the risks associated with this process. I will analyze it from 6 different perspectives. Once you comprehend these 6 aspects, you will establish a foundational understanding of the truth behind yuan internationalization. To start, we should examine the underlying details of the alleged currency swap agreement between China and Argentina. In 2020, the CCP initiated an active push for what they termed the internationalization of the yuan, and they singled out a specific instance or a strategically chosen international model, Argentina. What prompted CCP's significant interest in Argentina? The reason lies in Argentina's pre-existing economic challenges, presenting an opening for the CCP to assume control and serve as Argentina's exclusive lifeline. During 2020, Argentina's external debt soared to an astonishing $277 billion, almost touching $300 billion. However, the nation's foreign exchange reserve stood at a mere $44 billion. Confronted with such an immense debt burden and constrained reserves, Argentina grappled with a formidable predicament. It was imperative for the country to sustain its foreign trade and stave off economic collapse. In a bid to avert insolvency, Argentina sought out alternative strategies to service its debt. This susceptibility became the focal point for the CCP's interest in Argentina, exploiting the country's precarious situation. The CCP could effortlessly exert influence and foster collaboration, thereby expanding the adoption of the yuan and driving its internationalization. See through this lens, it becomes evident that Argentina found itself compelled to collaborate with the CCP, embracing the yuan and enhancing its utilization. This marks the initial facade I wish to elucidate. The rationale behind China's selection of Argentina and Argentina's willing embracement of the yuan. With mutual interests at play, the People's Bank of China in 2020 opted to formalize a currency swap agreement of 130 billion yuan with Argentina's central bank. Moving into January 2023, during his presidential campaign, Argentina's economy minister, bolstered by Xi Jinping's support, secured an additional 35 billion yuan, elevating the aggregate to a 165 billion yuan swap accord, designed to aid the struggling Argentina peso. This contextual backdrop furnishes vital understanding of the scenario. Next, how does the CCP clarify the situation to Chinese public? Why participate in what appears to be an unfavorable deal, exchanging for a substantial amount of depreciating Argentine peso at a fixed exchange rate? Argentina was in a dire economic state, characterized by hyperinflation exceeding 100%, causing the peso's rapid daily depreciation. The question remains, why would China choose to engage in such a transaction with inherent losses? Chinese state media explained to the Chinese population what advantages stem from exchanging yuan for Argentina's currency. Firstly, it aids Argentina in conserving substantial US dollars while procuring Chinese merchandise. Argentina would usually employ dollars, yet now they can employ yuan directly. Similarly, if Argentina procures items from other nations that accepts yuan, they can economize on dollar, alleviating the stress on Argentina's foreign exchange reserves. Secondly, it enhances Argentina's imports of Chinese goods, benefiting both Argentina and China. This is how the CCP elucidates the matter to the Chinese public. This constitutes the second facade of the context that requires comprehension. Thirdly, in this context, Argentina employed its currency swap agreement with China to settle a $2.7 billion debt with the IMF. Further intricacies deserves attention. In June 2nd this year, Argentina's economy minister, also a presidential candidate, Massa, inked an additional accord with the currency pact with China during his China visit. This addendum granted Argentina's central bank the flexibility to utilize an equivalent of $5 billion in yuan, which was then doubled to $10 billion. In essence, China permitted Argentina to leverage yuan in international or offshore markets to obtain dollars. Notably, the entire currency exchange pact between China and Argentina initially amounted to only 130 billion yuan, later extended to 165 billion yuan, roughly equating to $19 billion to $22 billion. However, the supplementary agreement signed between China and Argentina in June of this year enabled Argentina to primarily convert most of these funds into dollars, addressing its urgent debt repayment challenges. Consequently, China's prior domestic explanation that the yuan provision aimed to stimulate Chinese product purchases has fallen short, as the majority of funds have been channeled by Argentina to service debt. This agreement has evolved, shifting from an initial focus on enhancing foreign trade and bolstering Argentina's Chinese imports to primarily aiding Argentina's debt repayment. Argentina exchanged its depreciating currency for yuan, subsequently swapping yuan for dollar to fulfill its debt obligations. This transactional outcome absolves Argentina of its debt to China, as the debt repayment was managed through a currency exchange, utilizing yuan converted to dollars. The result for China? It's left with a heap of depreciating currency, as it utilizes Argentina's currency to procure commodities like oil. However, Argentina grapples with severe inflation surpassing 100%, and its currency's value has plummeted by half. Ultimately, China faces losses surpassing 50%. This adds another layer to the backdrop that merits comprehensive understanding. Moving on to the fourth point, let's explore deeper and examine not just Argentina's strategy, but also their instance of employing currency swap techniques to advance yuan promotion. This resonates with China's ongoing emphasis on advocating for more nations to adopt the yuan settlements. So, what lies at the core of these currency swaps and trade settlements? Why are economically challenged nations inclined to collaborate with the CCP? The fundamental rationale is remarkably uncomplicated. There are no fools behind these decisions. What drives these countries, Argentina included, to enter into currency swap with China? Or why do they show willingness to support China's yuan expansion effort? The reality is that this involves a direct and uncomplicated transaction. These nations secure a considerable amount of yuan, often at a remarkably low interest rate or even through interest-free currency swaps. But what purpose does this acquired yuan serve? Besides allocating a portion of procuring goods and services from China, these countries, emulating Argentina, channeled the acquired yuan into offshore markets for conversion into other currencies, notably the US dollar. This conversion to dollar serves a dual purpose. It aids in repaying debt and facilitates international trade, especially for transactions involving purchases from Europe and the US, where dollar payments are essential due to its prominence as the global trade currency. Therefore, they employ the yuan they acquire from China at favorable rates or through interest-free currency swaps to procure dollar. These acquired dollars serve either for trade activities or the settlement of debts. The outcome of this maneuver is an ongoing selling of yuan in the global currency market, leading to yuan depreciation. Consequently, China is compelled to intervene extensively by utilizing its stockpile of dollars to stabilize the yuan's valuation. As these nations persistently offload yuan, China must accumulate substantial amounts of its own currency to counteract this effort, effectively repurchasing its own currency. In essence, China exerts substantial efforts and taps into its dollar reserves to ensure the stability of the yuan's value, as the actions of these countries in selling yuan exert downward pressure on its valuation. This perpetual sequence of transactions depletes China's foreign exchange rates and necessitates the utilization of internal resources to counteract the detrimental impact inflicted on the yuan's exchange rate. As a result, a self-perpetuating loop of economic repercussions ensues. Will you lend more yuan to Argentina? You've already given so much, and if you stop, they won't be able to repay the yuan they have received, or they might cease using your yuan altogether. This would undermine the CCP's political propaganda efforts, so you have to keep providing yuan to them, turning it into a bottomless pit. You are helping them with money, and they are turning around to sell the yuan, harming you. After causing harm, you use your own resource to plug the hole and then continue giving them yuan. It's an ongoing vicious cycle, giving them money to help, and they in turn sell the yuan to harm you. After they harm you, you use your wealth to fill the gap and then continue providing yuan, perpetuating the destructive cycle. This is the reality of what we are discussing regarding the so-called internationalization of the yuan. Moving on to the fifth aspect, it's important to note that the practice we've been discussing isn't exclusive to Argentina. Instead, it's a trend among countries currently engaged in yuan usage or currency exchange agreements with China. In June of this year, Russia played a significant role in triggering a substantial devaluation of the yuan. The Russian central bank openly expressed concerns about the yuan's lack of free convertibility and adequate hedging tools, which significantly heightens the risk associated with trade settlements using the yuan. Russia's aggressive action in the Ukraine conflict led to a surge in bilateral trade with China, resulting in a considerable surplus of yuan in Russian possession. Consequently, Russia has been actively offloading substantial amounts of yuan for dollars in the offshore yuan market since the start of the year. Despite Russia's vocal stance on distancing itself from the dollar and the euro, their actions demonstrate a continued reliance on these currencies as they maintain reserves in them. This situation has transformed the yuan into a vehicle for money laundering and arbitrage for these self-proclaimed friendly nations or countries supported by China with the CCP, ultimately bearing the unintended consequences. In the end, it's the Chinese populace that will feel the impact. Fortunately, the current extent of yuan internationalization remains limited, and the 1.4 billion Chinese citizens can still navigate these dynamics. However, if this expansion continues unchecked, it has the potential to strain the stability of the yuan. To elaborate on the sixth point, the current aggressive drive for yuan internationalization, spearheaded by Xi Jinping's leadership, can be seen as a self-deceptive form of nationalist illusion, a situation where money is expended to attain honor while substantial resources are squandered in pursuit of an elusive goal. Why do I make this assertion? Well, even Russia echoes a similar sentiment, clearly indicating that the concept of yuan internationalization is an unattainable mirage. The rationale is straightforward. Due to its lack of convertibility, possessing yuan is tantamount to holding a stack of worthless paper. In the face of unexpected challenges or disruptions, individuals and organizations holding yuan would be exposed to significant risks. For genuine yuan internationalization to occur, a fundamental prerequisite is the establishment of free convertibility. Concurrently, China must reduce excessive government intervention and control over the yuan, enabling it to faithfully mirror market dynamics. Driven by political motives, China permits Argentina and Russia to adopt such practices with the yuan, only to later intervene and safeguard the yuan's value by investing more funds. Consequently, China's approach to modernization and the global adoption of the yuan, as overseen by Xi Jinping, is essentially a false honor bought with money. This is the truth behind internationalization of the yuan. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly.